That was really satisfying. All right. And we're going to go ahead and move into our Pledge of Allegiance. Our next item is 1.02, the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence. I, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Next item is 1.03 roll call. Maria, would you please make a roll call for this evening's meeting?
Thank you, Vice President. Good evening. Roll call for tonight's regular governing board meeting on Tuesday, September 2nd, starting with Dr. Michael Butts,
Here.
Ms. Victoria Castro Corral,
Here.
Dr. Megan Frankowitz,
Here.
Dr. Ashley Hodge,
Here.
and Ms. Tatiana Peña.
Here.
Thank you. We do have a quorum to proceed.
Thank you, Maria. Next item is 1.04, adoption of the agenda. Items on the consent agenda may be pulled and discussed by the board during this meeting. If they are discussed in advance, is there a motion to approve item 1.04 on the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Is there any discussion for item 1.04? Seeing none. All right. We're going to take it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion carries. Next item is 1.05, approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve item 1.05 minutes for the month of July 2025?
So moved.
That's a motion by Ms. Peña. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. A second by Dr. Butts. Any discussion for item 1.05? Hearing none. All right. Seeing that there is no further discussion, we're going to now vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the motion carries. All right. We're going to be moving right now into 2.01, anchoring the board and community. Dr. Hodge, I believe you're going to share our anchoring PowerPoint, please. Can we make sure that Dr. Hodge has capability to share? Thank you. All right. And can we make sure Dr. Hodge's sound is turned up?
Okay, is that better? Can you hear me? Madam Vice President, rather. Is that better?
That is better. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening. And as always, we are going to ground the community in our student outcomes focused governance. And today we're actually going to, or moving forward, we're actually going to have the whole board participate in this process. So you get to hear diverse voices from our board today, and I'll start us off. So in 2022, the entire board decided to embark upon the journey of SOFG, student outcome focused governance, and our current board is also committed to engaging the South Phoenix community and gathering meaningful insight. And so we're all on board with moving our academic outcomes for our students. So our vision is a community united to create better futures for all through education. I believe it's you, Madam Vice President.
Thank you so much. So student outcomes focused governance means that our focus is on improving student achievement and success through research-based policymaking and decisions. That means we're doing that in consultation with the community to be able to determine the values and visions for the community via our guardrails and setting the academic vision for the community via our academic goals. Next slide, please. What that looks like in practice is that our student outcomes focused governance board means that our boards are putting student outcomes first. I was shocked when I came onto the board that not all school boards do that. That's not always a focus in school boards across the country. And that means that our school board puts students' outcomes and success first in every single decision that we make. Next slide, please. And that means that we have, this is one I know yours. And that means that we have across the team a series of work between the executive team and the school board. We are sharing our vision and goals. We're setting student outcome goals. We're sharing our values. We're identifying our non-negotiables. And all of that means that we're working together as one Roosevelt community to be able to serve our students and set those goals for our community. And that means that 50% of our time in board meetings is spent on student outcomes. We adopt a budget that prioritizes adopted goals and guardrails. Our superintendent evaluation focuses on our adopted goals and guardrails. Our board conduct is rooted in those guardrails, our community collaboration, and our collective vision. And we have increased over the last few years our two-way communication on the board regarding those goals and guardrails. And we are seeking that alignment from the boardroom to the living room and including the classroom along the way.
Okay, so this is where I get to present. So we have adopted academic goals, 45 and 5. The first one is the percent of fourth grade students that score meets grade level or above on AASA ELA will increase from 20% on August 2023 to 45% by August 2028. Our second goal, the percent of fifth grade students that score meets grade level or above on AASA math will increase from 11% on August 2023 to 45% by August 2028. Our third goal, the percent of seventh grade students that score meets grade level or above on AASA ELA will increase from 22% on August 2023 to 45% by August 2028. And our fourth goal, the percent of eighth grade students that score meets grade level or above on AASA math will increase from 12% on August 2023 to 45% by August 2028. Next, please. That's mine too. Okay. Okay. Board guardrails. We set up some healthy board guardrails for ourselves. Guardrail number 1, healthy board conduct and discourse. Guardrail number 2, board operating procedures. Guardrail number 3, student outcomes focused decision making. And guardrail number 4, financial integrity. And guardrail number 5, community engagement.
We've also adopted superintendent guardrails. Guardrail number 1 being attaining the board student outcome goals. The superintendent shall not go without proactively sharing updates and plans on the budget or enrollment that will change the current landscape and stability of our district to stakeholders, including board members, students, parents, staff, and community members. Guardrail number 2 is that the superintendent shall not fail to consider climate surveys results to ensure a holistic approach to student development, addressing academic, social, emotional, and physical well-being, which includes after-school programming and wraparound service. Guardrail number 3, the superintendent shall not allocate district budget resources in a manner that does not prioritize the support student outcome focused goals, ensuring that financial decision directly contributes to the academic and developmental success of all students. Next slide, please. Guardrail number 4, the superintendent shall not fail to implement and maintain effective strategies for the retention and development of teachers, including promoting from within, to ensure that they have a positive impact on students as evidenced by data. And our last guardrail is that the superintendent shall not fail to ensure progress towards exiting ATSI and CSI status, which ensures the students with special needs and English learners and African American receive equitable access to high quality instruction, resources, and support services tailored to their unique needs to promote their academic success and overall development.
And then just a reminder, as a parent, student, or community member, you can join our board meetings and listen in to the first Tuesday of every month. We love to have some participation at these meetings, share your voice, give feedback, hold us accountable to the goals and guardrails we adopt, and really continue to be part of the partnership that we are moving our students forward with. So just appreciate all of those who are here, both in person and on Zoom, and appreciate all of those of you who are here to speak today, all of those who are here to listen and hear our presentation. And we hope that we continue to see you as the year goes on. All right, moving on to item 202. That is, speaking of exciting presentations, progress monitoring report for academic goals 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3. Goal 3, 3.1, and 3.2. Mr. Oviedo, take us away.
All right. That was much quicker. It was so efficient. Dr. Portillo usually introduces me, so I'm going to be ready. I'm going to be in the front seat next time. Madam President, wherever you are, members of the board, Dr. Portillo executive team, and RSD community, thank you again for having me. Just a couple of, I guess, one caveat is that we are sharing 2 goals today. Apparently, your feedback was that you loved these board reports so much that you wanted to double them, and everybody else was very excited to hear that as well. So we're doing goal 1 and goal 3 today, which is our ELA goals. And just to start with a big headline and a couple of things that we have hopefully upgraded, certainly changed from last year. But this is back to our normally scheduled reports that will look like this pretty much all the way up until January. And where we used to have headline, we have Are We on Track? So I'm just going to start there. And there is commonalities here between goal 1 and goal 3. So I will speak to both of them at times. And also, Mrs. Geston and I determined that I would do goal 1 and goal 3 data, and then we would look at the inputs as there are some overlaps there as well. So the big headline is that the gamut of academic data, especially with these 2 reports, is a refrain that you've heard before, that the data is tracking up. It's going in the right direction, just not at the trajectory that we are looking for. Again, I know it has been, that's a common refrain. And this is the piece that I would say sticks out the most when you look at 4th grade data, is it is an increase of 3 percentage points. But our hope, our goal was to be at 28% by the end of 2025 on AASA. And in order to stay on track for 45%, we would be looking for a proficiency goal of 33% for the end of this year. Again, positive proficiency trajectory, just not where we want to be. And also, as I wrote in the Are We on Track, the SGP for this grade is relatively low. It's actually high for 7th grade, relatively low for this grade, and we'll speak to that as well. So we have the inputs on the main page now, which I think looks nice as well, and we'll come back to that. Okay, so the thing that, as I'm looking just very quickly on page 2, I know that the board members, you have looked at this already, and we've even done some revisions that I'll share in a second. But I just want to add some color and clarity where I can. One thing that would stick out to me is there is a swing, especially in SGP and proficiency among school population, more so than when we look at student population. Sorry, it's kind of bugging out a little bit here. Change the view here. That should help. So again, the SGP, I want to speak to this part real quick. Student growth percentile. This is this 45.5 here. And just again, I like to share this every time, and for those who are new, this represents our student growth percentile, which is how did our students do from AASA last year to AASA this year. And it is a percentile rank. So 99 is the best score for an individual. 1 is the lowest score for an individual. And all things being equal, you would want to see a score of about 50 to 53, which would represent about 1 year's worth of growth, more or less. So 45, obviously on the other side of that. And then you can see there our schools, both proficiency and SGP. I just want to say that you can think of both proficiency and SGP. My sports analogy today is a marathon. So if school is this 9 mile, or especially K-8 is this 9 mile marathon, at the end of every year, we want our kids to be at a certain benchmark. That would be proficiency. and that is important. Growth is really speaking to the speed at which they are running, that particular mile or their splits. This is just I think, something that is a reality, is that not every student is at the starting line at kindergarten. There are students that are well behind the starting line, some that are ahead of the starting line. And that really speaks to proficiency. Growth, again, is thinking more about the speed at which they're going. So there are kids who could be catching up and will have a high SGP, but the proficiency isn't showing yet. So that's why I just keep coming back to SGP as a really good growth indicator of how our school, students, district is doing. And then finally at the bottom, I always like to show something a little different here, but I have showed writing in the past. Writing is a portion of the AASA ELA test, and it's a test that they take separate from the ELA test, but it combines with their ELA score. And we are seeing a lot of schools that are doing well in writing and that are also doing well on the reading end. That makes a lot of sense. We learned once in Keys to Literacy that reading is like breathing in, writing is like breathing out. And so we would see some correlation between the reading scores and writing scores, which we see here. Just for reference, the state average is a 5.3 for fourth grade. That's the average writing score for a fourth grader in the state. And it's just a 10-point rubric. So there's a 10-point rubric that they're scored on and can get anywhere between a 2 and a 10 on that test. And I'm happy to another time to explain a little bit more about writing. Another reason why we see it as important is as a former assistant principal in Phoenix Union and hearing from teachers at South and other schools, just the importance of writing as they come into high school. So more than just test scores, that a wish from especially freshman level teachers is that they are coming as even semi-proficient writers. Okay, moving on to our interim goals. Our interim goals are our second graders for this particular interim goal. And that is because these are the students who will be fourth graders when 2028 comes along. So this is inevitably the cohort to which we will be seeing, did we pass or meet our 45% goal for goal number 1? There's actually 3 goals for the interim goal. The other one, at the time that we published this, we didn't have this data yet, which was the oral reading fluency data. I can give you just a little sneak peek of that, and we'll speak to this in a future board meeting. But our goal for oral reading fluency is that we would have a certain percentage of students at 76 words per minute. Right now, that is, we're starting out with 41% of our students at near or at benchmark in terms of the oral reading fluency test. So conversely, we're at 60% who are not there or who are considered at the intervention level. And again, what we're trying to do is decrease the number of students who are not at 76 words per minute. So very simply, we have a goal that is around fluency. And once we have more data on that, we'll be happy to give that to you. 1.2 and 1.3 are other goals, which are tracking our second grade STAR reading test. We put a big gray box around this because it looks not great at first. Like, why is there this big jump here for fall 25-26? The number one reason is that right now the students in second grade, this cohort, are taking the STAR reading test for the first time. As first graders, they were taking a different test called an early literacy test, both by STAR, but early literacy measures their foundational literacy skills. So it's a different test, and it also has a different bar. So even rather than thinking about it as proficiency, we use the term benchmark for early literacy. So for example, I would say that 41% of students were at or above the benchmark, which STAR counts as the 40th percentile rank. So that's why when they get to the fall, we've got a much different score here, because now they're taking the reading score for the reading test for the first time. And it is measuring it according to how would we predict that this student would do on a state test, even in second grade. Even though second grade doesn't take a state test, it's still predicting that about 28% of students would pass this state test.
Mr.
So, yes.
Can just ask a clarifying question there? I completely understand second grade is taking a different test. Is it correct, though, to say that this testing situation in second grade is the same this year as it was last year in second grade? The students are taking a different test.
Yes. So second grade to second grade is the same. And I think I actually have that. So if this helps, last year, second graders were at 27.6% proficient to start the year and 65% minimally proficient. So if you compare last year's second graders to this year's second graders, same test, this group is coming in slightly ahead, not much, but slightly ahead. So it's not a new test to us. It's just a new test. This is the first time that this cohort, since they're in second grade now, is taking this test. Did that help? Okay. Okay, so that is our interim goal for 1.2 and 1.3, which we'll be tracking. Something new too is that we switched it up from a line graph to bar graph because we're monitoring both minimally proficient students and our proficient students. So what we're trying to do, one of our goals is to get this number, 63% of minimally proficient students by the end of the year below this black line. This black dotted line is our goal here. Our proficiency number is to get to 35%, which is this measured by this green dotted line here. So we'll be measuring that as we go along across our STAR assessments. And then finally at the bottom, just very briefly, we show a series of grades. So the students from second, third, and fourth grade and how they are doing by school on this assessment. And definitely interesting data for me because this is the first time that we're seeing scores of our combined schools. Okay, and then I'll try to go a little quicker, but for goal 3, similar story. You can see that there's a 3% increase from the 24 AASA assessment on ELA to 2025. One big difference is that the growth scores were considerably higher in this grade, but still, are we on track? We would say no. The goal was to be at 30% at this point in order to be tracking towards 45% in 2028. Again, we have the key inputs for that on the first page as well. Okay, so I think that this is exciting. As a district, a average SGP for this grade of 54.71 is quite high. That would be considered that this entire 7th grade across Roosevelt School District made more than 1 year's worth of growth. And you can see the range of SGP scores there, a handful in the 60s and even high 60s. And then again, across our student population proficiency. And then in 7th grade writing, the average writing score on ASA was 5.7. So Davis and Campbell represent 2 schools with writing scores above the state average, which is exciting. And then the interim goals here are similar. There's no oral reading fluency goal, just 2 interim goals, but the same story. We're trying to get this cohort to below 45% of students minimally proficient, and we're trying to get this cohort to above 30% of students at proficiency or highly proficient. So that is the goal that we're tracking, and this group of 5th graders are making progress on ELA, and you can see that by the percentage of students who are proficient. Again, it's just not at the trajectory that we're looking for. And then finally, our 5th to 7th grade STAR proficiency scores. So again, looking at 5th, 6th, and 7th graders in our upper grades to kind of give us an idea of how we are doing towards our goal number 3. I'm sure I have some more there, and happy to answer questions. I know that we also got a chart. Board member Pena had asked for some data, and happy to answer any questions as well.
Board members opening up to questions. Maybe Dr. Hodge, if you have anything online, you can go first.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Vice President. My question is, how can we better prepare our 2nd graders to decrease the minimum proficient rate for 3rd grade?
Dr. Hodge, great question. And I should say, I jumped ahead on the questions just to put this to the group if you want to hear from the inputs at this point or do questions. But I am happy to answer data questions, or we can get to the inputs.
Maybe let me see first if any other board members have data questions related to clarifying the data before we move on to any of the inputs. Any data clarifying questions before we move on to inputs? Okay, well, we can always come back to those if they arise. So maybe then let's go on to the inputs. And then Mr. Oviedo, if you want to move there, and then Dr. Hodge, we can move on to the inputs, answer your question, hopefully, and then come back to any other questions from the board.
Thank you, Madam Vice President, members of the board, Madam President, members of the community and executive team. One of the things I do want to call attention to on the data charts is as we are looking at, can we show the one of the bar graphs? The 7th grade one is good. The bar graph, please.
This is just fifth grade.
Yeah, okay,
is the data.
Yeah. So as we look at the bar graph, something to look at is, as you all know, year by year, of course, we're decreasing the number of students minimally proficient, which is the goal, and increasing proficiency. But another area that we're really looking at is the partially proficient category. So it's important that we not lose track of those students, and that number is also rising. But that means those students are getting close to or approximating proficiency more. Of course, it's a pretty large group of students that we're also making sure that we look at. So even though we don't have a goal set around that, I just did want to call attention to that data is part of our data set.
Over to me. All right. Good evening, Madam Vice President, Madam President, members of the governing board, exec team, and community. For this first round, just about 2 weeks ago, you got to hear a whole bunch from me about our academic improvement strategy. And so because we're just at the beginning of the school year, we don't have data yet to see whether our strategy is working. So for this first report, for both our 4th grade goal and our 7th grade goal, what you'll see are the key inputs that I shared during the study session. And so for both of them, they're organized according to 3 categories. The first being curriculum and instruction, the next instructional support, professional development, collaboration and feedback, and then finally monitoring and evaluation. Many of these inputs are the same for both our youngest kiddos to our oldest kiddos. For the 4th grade goal, though, and maybe this gets into answering Dr. Hodges' question, out of all of those inputs, probably the most powerful one, the one that we are investing the most time and energy and resources in, are the reading priority plans that have been developed. These take the science of reading and bridge those concepts and strategies with our HMH curriculum. They are truly daily lesson plans for our teachers in kindergarten through 5th grade that help them utilize our adopted curriculum, use the most important pieces in the best ways. And so we believe by doing so, not just for 2nd grade, but for all of those grade levels, with incredibly focused instruction on all components of reading, we believe very strongly that's going to make a significant impact in our students' reading abilities. For the upper grades, again, you'll see a lot of the same key inputs because our strategy was really, a lot of it was built around to what Dr. Franklitz really appreciated 2 weeks ago, our curriculum maps, our unit plans. We are so excited to be able to equip our teachers with those so that they can focus on the daily planning. And then the big piece of that too is then how do we use the collaborative time that we have? So really helping support our instructional coaches, our school leaders to lead our teacher teams, and really deep intentional collaborative planning, use of data at the daily lesson level. For our upper grade teachers, one of the things that we've brought back is essentially on about the monthly basis that we have content PLT meetings, so where all of our junior high math teachers get to come together for collaboration. really from fifth grade on up, so that because at fifth grade we start to departmentalize. We want our teachers to have really quality collaborative time at their campus with their teams, but they also need time in those upper grades to focus really deeply on their specific content. So those are just a few highlights from the inputs that we have in place. We are actively living out our strategy and are excited to see those results.
Dr. Hodge, any follow-up there?
No, thank you. I just appreciate all the progress that we've made. And our data report, our progress monitoring report didn't look like this a year ago. So super grateful for all the work that has gone into this.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Hodge. Any other questions from the board? Pastor Crowe?
I had,
Ms. Pena?
yes, so I appreciate that you added some data here. One of my questions that I had was, how possible would it be to receive data for how the students without IEPs or 504 plans are performing? And the reason being is because I just wanted to kind of see, if our strategies have been working with children that don't have any other factors that can get in the way from their learning. And so, yes, thank you for that. I want to understand this a little bit more. So if we can make some time for that later on, that I think I'd really appreciate that. But my other question is, and I want to think outside the box. I always want our district to really aim for more. What efforts is a district making to observe or visit schools of which Roosevelt residents attend outside of her district schools? If given the opportunity to visit other competitive schools, would the district send someone to that? And I want to clarify, I'm not talking about our neighboring public schools. We can always talk to them. I'm talking about if there's a private school, if there's a micro school, if there is a charter school. Do we have anything in place to observe or visit any of those neighboring schools?
Thank you. There is, we don't have it on the books yet, but there is a charter network that we've asked to be able to go and observe specifically how they're improving in the area of math. So yes, we do have some allies within the charter world, and we're trying to support each other and help each other in getting better. There's also an upcoming trip that will be on the October board agenda, requesting travel for our innovation principal, our planning principal, and some key personnel to go and travel and observe what's happening at that school. It's a school in California. So they want to go and see that. And then there's also been opportunities through donations where I know that Ms. Gaston and I had the opportunity to fly to New Jersey to observe one of the Uncommon schools from the Uncommon Schools Charter Network as well, to go and gather input from them. And we learned from them a lot of great work that they're doing with similar demographics. And we also brought from that our commitment to the relay work that we've been doing with Relay, which is also funded through donations. So that's something that we learned while traveling to that one. So I'm excited to see what staff will learn when they travel to California to visit the other school and then here locally that other charter network.
Thank you. As a follow-up to that, what I'm recommending actually doesn't cost anything. So, but if given the opportunity, which I would love to set something like that, if given an opportunity, would that be something that the district would be open for the local competitive schools? All right. Thank you.
Just to clarify, the place where we're going to go and observe is local, the math improvement. Yes.
Any other questions from board members?
Madam President, VP. I didn't submit my question, so I apologize, and I don't expect for my question to be answered in this very moment. But I did take a look at the bar graph, and like Dr. Hodge, I was concerned with the minimally proficient because I do see that there is some progress as it is decreasing. Yeah, if we could show the bar graph.
It's like fifth grade or second grade, Madam President. Remember, Pastor Crowe.
Fifth grade is fine. But I'm wondering if, when we share our board goals for the 45 and 5, that could be very far reaching because I mean, it just looks like 5 years, right? So what would that 45 and 5 look like in a month where we can get our teachers and our principals kind of to understand what that 45 and 5 looks like and within that year, what that progress looks like. So for example, 59.9, what is that? What is the goal by May for us to reach that 45 and 5? I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, I'd like to just start to track those strategies, and I see the inputs, but I like to just kind of identify what has been working, what has not, and just really work with our schools because I understand that a strategy might work for one school, but every school is different. So how could we work with our teachers and to kind of come with and leveraging our unit plans and those strategies to really decrease that, because just seeing over 50% minimally proficient is very concerning to me. So I just wanted to share that. And yeah, I don't expect an answer right now, but I did wanted to just ask that question. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Castro Corral. That question also applies, I think, to next month. So we can carry that question to next month and prepare to be able to answer you. And I think, that is a high number. We're not satisfied with that number. Also, when we look at our reading results as a state, we're struggling. So as a state, and I think nationwide, our reading scores are struggling. So it's something that I think a lot of us are trying to focus on, and many of us know that the science of reading is a scientific approach towards teaching reading. So as we're transitioning our whole district to that methodology, it does take some time to see the data. What you're describing is something called cascading goals. So the cascading goal for the year, we've set that, but there are ways for us to create cascading goals by quarter, so that we can look a little bit more, not after the fact, but as we go along. So that's something that we're trying to also hit at as predictively as we can, right? So yes, we can definitely expand upon the answer to that question at October board's meeting.
Thank you. And I mean, once again, this has not been shared before. So the transparency that Roosevelt has begun to do is, I think, is great. So I think we are moving towards a good direction. But thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Corral. I think just to build on that and maybe looking forward to our next presentations, I would be curious to see if there's a way for us to differentiate within that minimally proficient, because that I think is a wide band of students. Are there students who are close to that partially proficient? Are there students who are very far? Is there any way to see how many students might move in the next round? I don't know what that would look like, but if there's a way for us to be able to disaggregate that data a little bit, just because that is such a large number of students, if there's a way for us to do that in the next round, that would be helpful for us to be able to make sense of that. And then the second one, I would just love, and I think I understand the broad theory, but would love maybe Ms. Gustin for you to speak a little bit to, obviously these are two different groups of students. Our students were trying to move to proficient, and our students were trying to move from minimally proficient to partially proficient. Could you just speak a little bit to how those strategies are kind of supporting both of those groups? Because obviously we're in PLTs, we're using lesson plans. How right now are they hitting both of those groups or supporting both of those groups? Or is that, hey, we're kind of good teaching in the classroom, and that's kind of hitting the middle of the road, and then we're differentiating later on?
Sure. I think my immediate answer to that is our first steps are just going back to high quality tier 1 instruction. We can't get good at differentiating for students until we first have the foundational instructional strategy set. And again, and especially in the K-5 classrooms, I just want to acknowledge, like with the reading priority plans, that's a huge lift for the teachers, for the coaches, for the administrators. So learning to do those well is the first step. And then it moves into using the available data we have, our STAR benchmarks, our CBM measures, our different progress monitoring data, and really I feel like I'm a broken record on this. Getting like that daily student assessment data is critical. In fact, and then this Friday, our instructional coaches and our principals do kind of the first half of that professional development, and then beginning of October they do the second half where they really are looking at that lessons exit ticket, that lessons assessment, and looking at what the students do for that specific learning target, and then looking at what they expected of them through an exemplar and being able to find that specific gap that they can then reteach, whether it's whole group for the whole class or even a small group, but really helping equip and support our teachers at reteaching and in a sense intervention at that level before we move into really refining our larger intervention systems. I say all that. I don't want it to be confused that we aren't doing intervention. We have intervention blocks into our master schedules every day. I keep mentioning our coaches. They really are a big lift with this. So for one, like learning how to group students correctly, using the data to get them in the right group, for how long, with what focus, with what resources. So all of that is also happening at the same time. But your question alone, like that definitely is a place that we need to continue to improve on of what systems do we have in place to be able to do that. So.
But just to restate that back to you to make sure I'm hearing you right.
Well, I get it this time.
What you're saying is the idea that the first step is to make sure that all students receive the initial instruction of quality instruction so that we can see who mastered the content with the quality instruction. And then from that group of students reteach, rather than saying, hey, we don't know whether or not the student got that quality instruction initially. So we don't know who needs to be retaught and who just didn't get that instruction.
That was brilliantly said. Yes. That's perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I would also add, Madam President, that one of the things that we invested in last year, so this is the first year that we're going to see any benefit of that, is the interventionist position. Now, recently, and I know during my superintendent's update, I will share with you what the enrollment is, and also at the special meeting and study session on Monday, the 15th, we'll share with you our budget, our adjusted budget. We were in a situation where we were considering eliminating that interventionist position. However, with the input of our principals, they supported me in being courageous to keep that position, even though we are dropping a little bit in enrollment. So I think that investment of having that interventionist is something that we're going to be tracking really closely to ensure that it's a return on our investment. But also, the campuses need that support, that additional person to be the dedicated person aside from the classroom teacher, because classroom teachers are also delivering intervention, but aside from the classroom teacher to be pulling those groups. So that's another way that we are supporting kids that are in that minimally proficient category.
Thank you, Superintendent. And then just one quick question before we close out and move on to our next item. Can you just remind the community and the board when the next kind of testing window where we'll get updated data will be?
Madam President, members of the board. We have, we're excited to share in September more of our benchmark assessments. So that's our first round of benchmark assessments in September. That's just assessing what's in the curriculum maps up to that point. So we'll have those in September. I think the next major one is always going to be the middle of the year. That's the December test, which we'll do in January. But we also have an October STAR assessment that all schools will take at the same time. So we would be able to have that for you in November.
So some upcoming data points in September, October, and then major data coming back in, you said December?
The December is the test, and so
Yep.
we would be presenting that to you in January.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Madam President,
Yeah, go ahead.
sorry, just to clarify the data that you're asking for, can we look at the second and fourth grade fall star chart real quick, or yes, the data right here. So how it's broken up into minimally, partially proficient. So it'll look like this minus the second and third grade for the goal number 1 for fourth grade. Is that what I understand?
Yeah, Madam President, Board Member Butts, the reason why I do second through fourth, so this is second, third, and fourth grade is second grade represents the cohort that will be there in 2028. Fourth grade is obviously, that's the goal. So this is intended to look at students who are kind of in this window of second, third, fourth grade. How are they doing combined? So my plan would be to show you this. It would be exactly the same. It will just show October data versus this. We could keep this and show October so that you could see the percent changes. Or we could just show October, maybe like some plus or minus percentage point swings.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you so much, Mr. Oviedo. Really appreciate it. And just thank you again for all of the data. And like we've said up here, I think several times, this report just keeps getting better and better. And thank you so much for all of the feedback that you've integrated. And thank you to the team for an incredible study session. It feels like yesterday, feels like forever ago, 2 weeks ago, for walking us through a really thorough plan. I feel confident as a board member that we had the information we needed to really walk through those pieces. So just appreciate all of that. Moving on to item 2.03, it is progress monitoring report for Superintendent Garwell number 2. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Portillo.
Thank you, Madam Vice President, Madam President, members of the board, executive team, and the Roosevelt community. So aside from our academic data, we know that there are other things that the community holds dear and close. So as you all recall, we used our climate data along with all the different committees that we had going on a couple of years back in order to be able to determine what guardrails I need to stay within, which are the values of the community as we're pursuing the academic goals. So as we look at guardrail number 2, which is what we're going to be presenting on today, we also have our this year's interim guardrails. So you could advance to the next slide. Thank you. So the interim guardrails were parent advisory groups, advisory groups, and I'll talk a little bit about that. The other guardrail, also interim guardrail, highly focuses on ensuring that we have the after-school programming. So we'll have somebody come up to the podium and share on that. And then also the third guardrail was looking at students as holistically and also specifically at the at our food services department, and how are we, child nutrition department, and how are we improving upon the food service experience. So those 3 areas will be shared upon today. So starting with the advisory groups, these are the different advisory groups that we are going to have this year. They are above and beyond what was requested by the board. So we've added some different advisory groups to their request of the guardrail. And that's just as I started being in the superintendency a little bit more and knowing the groups that we interact with. These groups really have, and along with other groups, but I know I can't meet with everybody in all of South Phoenix. But with these groups, we really thought that we would be able to gain good representation of voice from across the community. So one of them is the parent advisory group. Then we have a student advisory group, a community advisory group. So that one is made up of community leaders that include business leaders. It also includes leaders of different nonprofits within South Phoenix. And then the religious advisory group, so religious leaders from the different faith groups here in South Phoenix, a staff advisory group, then the African American advisory group, knowing that there are some deep roots here in South Phoenix that are grounded in the African American experience, and then our government officials, which I do meet with individually, not as an entire group, since they're special and unique in that sense. It's hard to get them all in the same space at the same time. Just to let you all know, the meetings with each of these advisory groups are planned by me with the assistance of Magali Rivera, our communications director. And then also they might be facilitated by a different staff member, but they are planned by me. And then also I attend and welcome them and interact with them. But then sometimes I have to leave. I'm not able to stay the whole hour and a half or 2 hours that each of those advisory groups meet. I do directly stay and facilitate the religious advisory group, and then I'll be doing the same thing with the staff advisory group. They all are having their first meeting either last week, this week, or the following week, so that we get all of the data and input back from them within a same relatively close together time period. So that way, what the input that they give us can actually help us in our planning, right? If we had them meeting at windows of time that were too wide, then I wouldn't really be able to gather all of the information at once. The first topic of discussion at the first meeting is review of the climate survey results. So as you all know, this is our third year of climate survey results. So reviewing how we're doing on that, what we're doing, what we're improving upon, highlights of areas that we do really well in comparison to other districts nationwide who have taken the same survey, areas that we need to focus on that we might be doing lower than districts across the nation that are also taking the same survey. And then also getting their input from them as to ideas that they might have as to how to respond to that data. The second the second topic of discussion will be at the next meeting, which will happen in November, between the last week of October, first weeks of November. And that topic will be about budget. So it'll really be sharing with them where are we in our enrollment with our budget and being able to elicit from them some input based on some of the different decisions that we'll be facing when it comes to budget and how we want to use our money to invest in improving our system. So we'll be able to gather that input from all of these different groups as we start developing the 26-27 school year budget. Which will be developed around January. So that's why it's important we have that input and feedback prior to beginning that work. So that's what I have on the advisory groups. Do you all have any questions on that one before we advance to the next?
Board members, any questions?
Okay.
Dr. Portillo, I just wanted to clarify with the advisory groups. When you meet with the advisory groups, what is the main focus and like what sort of like the input that they give, how will that be used?
So typically we'll take them a data set. So in this case, for the first meeting, we took them the climate survey. And then they have specific questions that that are similar or the same across all of the advisory groups that we're trying to elicit their input on. But then there also might be questions that are unique to the advisory group that they represent. All of that data is gathered together. And then when we as an exec team meet, we'll be able to look through those results, especially in the creation of our budget, be able to look through those results so that we are keeping that feedback in mind as we're making what we anticipate will be difficult financial decisions as we move forward.
Any further questions? All right. Thank you, Dr. Portillo.
Thank you. Now I'd like to call Ms. Claudia Mendoza to the podium. The other guardrail is focused on after-school programs. So again, keeping in mind the climate survey results and specifically honing in on after-school programs. So Ms. Mendoza wears many hats. She's new to our district. She works under the leadership of Ms. Gaston. And one of the hats that she wears is overseeing the expansion of our after-school programs. The guardrail said we had 3 City of Phoenix programs, and the guardrail was to double that. And we've exceeded that now, ensuring that we have after-school programs at each of our schools. And Ms. Mendoza will speak to that.
Good evening, Madam Vice President, Madam President,
members of the board, and executive team. Thank you for having me here today. Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things was that we wanted to ensure that every one of our schools had that to offer parents and families. And so, like Dr. Portillo said, we have accomplished that. We're still in the middle of making sure that we're licensed and get that going. But like she mentioned, the city of Phoenix, we have a program. It's before and after school. That is a paid program. So those three schools, Campbell, Southwest, and Valley View, are able to offer that to their families. Again, that is something that parents pay for. Then the 21st Century program. That is actually available to all students who want to participate in that. And so the three schools that participate currently are Chavez, Conchos, and Julian as well. And then at Julian, we have a couple other programs. One is called Mentor Kids, and then the other one is called Lovable Kids. The Mentor Kids is a free program available to all parents, and they actually travel to King from Julian. And I'm not familiar with exactly like the distance between, but I think it's like right next door. And so students are able to go there and participate. The Lovable Kids is also provided to all families within the Julian school, but that is kind of a paid program, a paid like daycare program that's available to parents. So there are the two options there. And then the last one is the one that we are currently working on. All of the other campuses will be able to offer what the Champions Before and After School program. That will be a paid program for families. For the rest of the schools, Barr, Bernard Black, Chavez, Conchos, Greenfield, Kennedy, Lopez, Pastor, and Sunland. And some of them obviously overlap as well, so they offer more than just the one program. But we are currently working with all of the site principals in collaboration with the program. They are taking the lead on the licensing through the Department of Health Services. However, I am supporting, and then of course all of the principals. They probably get an email from me at least once a week with just things that we need to continue working toward in order to get all of the sites licensed. The first two that will probably be licensed based on our paperwork and everything, having everything in order, will probably be Bernard Black, Lopez. There are a couple others that are very close as well. So we will have kind of a sliding launch for those with the first starting towards the end of September. Any questions?
Board members, any questions?
I have a question. For the paid programs, is there a sliding scale or how do we determine?
The pay scale?
Or is it just a flat rate? Yes.
Yeah, they actually have a lot of different options, which I was pleased to see. So, for example, the before school, like if a parent is only needing the before school, they have options like 1 to 2 days is $20 per week. 3 to 5 days is $30 per week. If they're only interested in after school, same thing. 1 to 2 days, $50 per week. 3 to 5 days, $80 per week. And then the nice thing there, though, is they're offering a lot of different discounts for families that have more than one kiddo. So, for example, registration is $60 per student, $100 for the whole family. So that's really nice that they take that into consideration. They also will have options like drop-in care, drop-in after school, drop-in early release options. And then also they will offer discounts. So like for multi-child, they'll give 10% of the tuition. And then military, 15% discount as well. And then the free or reduced scholarship will be 30% off as well. So they do offer a lot of options, which made me happy.
Thank you so much and welcome to the RSD team.
Yay, thank you.
Thank you so much. And just we know how much work this is. And so thank you. Well, first of all, to our principals for all of the time that you're putting in to make sure that that's available to our families. And thank you so much for all of the support you're providing our principals.
Sure. Thank you.
And thank you, Madam President, Madam Vice President, members of the board and executive team and Roosevelt community. I do want to call attention to a correction. I apologize. We do have our grants director who sent us is a message here. Thank you, Ms. Tanya. A correction. 21st century. So Travis School is not, we apologize. Bar is a 21st century, as well as Julian, Sunland, and Conchos. So we apologize for that. And also 21st century grant is offered to all students based on the goals that are set by that school.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So the last guardrail that we want to present on today is our child nutrition update. And we have Ms. Heather Krushenk, who is joining us virtually today, and she'll speak on the efforts that child nutrition is making to improve the experience of child nutrition.
Hi, Madam Board President, governing board members, Dr. Portillo and the executive team and community members. Thank you so much for having me today. We're very excited about the guardrails that were set for child nutrition and how we can work together to enhance our students' experience every day at school. And one of the ways that we can do that is through their meal service by offering, fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, but also things that kids really want to eat while staying within the nutritional guidelines that we're required to by the federal government. So we have met with parents before. Last year, we met over at Conchos and we met with the parent-teacher organization. And it was an excellent conversation. Parents were able to ask us questions and we were able to explain how our program works and why some of the decisions we make are made. And we really valued that input from the parents. We just started last year incorporating increasing numbers of taste tests at our schools, and we invited parents to come and do those taste tests with the children. And that was a fun experience for everyone, I think. I don't know if I had more fun or they did, but it was great. And the parents were really excited to be able to try some of the things that their kids are having at school. So our plan this year is to partner with a lot of our principals when they're doing events where parents may already be on campus and set up a time where we can get together. Parents can submit some questions prior and we can give them food to taste, answer some of their questions. And then we want to work with community engagement to do some sort of QR code where parents would be able to submit their suggestions and ideas through that medium. And we would be able to take those and work with our group of people that help us process all our food and come up with all the recipes. We have some chefs coming into the district to work with our teams on training so that we can give our kids the very best that they deserve.
Right. Board members, any questions? Just to thank you so much for all of that effort and interacting with our families. I know my children can't tell me anything they learned in school today, but I know inside and out the lunch menu every single day, including the breakfast menu and all of the options. So I know this is near and dear to our students' hearts, and it's something that, does provide that bright spot in the middle of the day. So it is something that they look forward to, and making sure that their students are having those healthy options that they're excited about can be a really an exciting part of their day and something that keeps them coming back to school. So just appreciate all of the time that you've put into this and look forward to seeing what comes out of this time with our families.
Oh, thank you so much. It's my pleasure. It's my passion. I've been in child nutrition since 2001. And from the first day I started, that's just where I've stayed. It's a wonderful place to be. We hope to be the favorite part of everyone's day in the school is to see us in the kitchen and serving all those healthy meals to the kids. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on, Dr. Departier.
No, thank you. That's all I have for today's guardrail presentation, and we look forward to presenting on other guardrails at the October board meeting.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Portillo. And we are going to move on to item 2.04, which is English language learner programming in the Roosevelt School District. And we are going to kick it over, I believe, back to Dr. Portillo and then over to Mrs. Gaston.
Thank you. Thank you. So yes, correct. The Teaching and Learning Division houses the English Language Learner Acquisition Department. So, and that actually is under the direction of Ms. Erica Sanders. So Ms. Gaston is going to introduce the team, and she and her staff will present on our English Language Learner programming, our Zella results, and our corrective action plan for English language acquisition services.
All right. Well, good evening again, Madam Vice President, Madam President, members of the governing board, exec team, and community. To Dr. Portillo's point, we're excited to be here to share more about EL programming in Roosevelt. We have the team here, not just because you probably heard plenty from me, but we also want to just demonstrate that when it comes to EL instruction and programming and support here in Roosevelt, it is very much a team effort. I'm incredibly grateful to have them here. As a little bit of a backstory, last year, it wasn't until about November that we even had a coach or a role designated for EL when Dr. De Leon came on board, and now we have even more support for this important work. So what you'll hear, if we don't mind moving to the next slide, we're going to talk first about who our kiddos are, some quick data on our EL, the classification, along with their current data. We'll then talk more about accountability, especially when it comes to corrective action and the role that ADE's OLS department or division plays in that. And then most importantly, we will talk to you about what programming for EL students looks like in Roosevelt. And so to help us this evening, we have Ms. Erica Sander, who is our Director of Teacher Effectiveness. We have Dr. Catherine Pettit, who is our Assistant Director of Curriculum and Assessment. And then we have our two EL coaches. We've got Jenny McAllister, and then we've got Dr. Liz De Leon to help lead the conversation today. So with that, I welcome up Ms. Sander first, or no, sorry, Dr. Pettit. So we'll start with our data slide. And to present to you, we started the school year with 1,734 students identified as English learners. However, that's a living number as we get new students enrolled, and also because our students are being tested and placed for our beginning of the year Zella assessment, which closes tomorrow. So out of the 1,734 students, we had 40% pre-emergent and emergent, 37.6% at basic, and 22.4% intermediate. And then to take a deeper look at how these students are dispersed across grade levels, we have a pretty even dispersal across K through 8 and pre-emergent. In basic, we have the majority of students 3rd through 8th grade, and then we have relatively smaller number of intermediate students. However, it's important to note that students can score intermediate in one of the 4 domains, reading, writing, listening, or speaking, and still test out of the program and then be proficient as long as their scale score is at 1,000. So that is reassuring with that smaller number in intermediate. And then we want to take a look at our reclassification rate. In 2024, we were at 8% reclassified. And in 2025, we were at 10.24%. And then our schools that performed highest also were some of our schools that piloted our language power program. So that correlates to the effectiveness of the implementation of that program. And then some of our lower performing schools have since closed and have combined. And I thought we had one more slide, but I'm going to turn it over to Dr. De Leon.
All right, I'm going to speak on the EL program monitoring that took place last school year.
conducted by OELAS, the Office of English Language Acquisition Services over at ADE. First, I'm going to give you an overview of the timeline. We were notified that we would participate on last year's EO program monitoring back in November of 2024. And almost immediately after that, the first window for the first phase for phase one open, which was the documentation submission window. They sent us a sample of SSIDs for 6 sites, and we had to upload documentation on those SSIDs. And on your right, you can see the categories that they were looking at. So we had to submit everything from Azela reports, parent notification and consent forms, home language surveys, etc. And then that window closed officially on in March of 2025. And then after that, we enter phase 2, which was the on-site visits. A team from OELAS came to the district and went into those 6 sites. And they observed both targeted and integrated instruction. And then after the last day of their visit, we had an exit meeting where they shared preliminary findings. And a little bit after that, in May of 2025, we received the official letter with the findings. We had a total of 7 findings, and I'll speak on those in a little bit. And then after receiving the letter, we had a month to submit our corrective action plan. This has already been approved, and we are already in the process of addressing those findings. These are the findings that we had. We had 4 on the left that are under compliance specifically, and then on your right, we have also, on the left, those that fall under instruction, and on your right, those that fall under compliance. What's interesting here is that also those that have to do with instruction, it was the compliance side of instruction that was an actual finding, meaning it was not that they didn't see evidence or they didn't see the needs of our ELs being addressed by our teachers and being addressed during instruction. It was the documentation of those actions that was missing, specifically on lesson plans. So again, all of these findings are already being addressed and were stated on our corrective action plan. Those on the right that had to do with compliance, for the most part, these again weren't necessarily missing documents. For the most part, it was that the documentation was not completed within the required timeline, which for Azela identification and parent notification and consent for can vary from 30 days to 2 weeks. So we did have most of those documents, but those were either not submitted or signed by parents within those timelines. And with instruction, what we have put into place to address the findings now, and in a little bit, you'll hear more about these new actions, is including the targeted and the integrated block being now explicitly labeled on our master schedules, as well as the use of a new EL binder where teachers keep all of the documentation that is related to their ELs, and the use of 2 lesson plan templates, one for integrated instruction and one for targeted instruction, where they now keep evidence of what they're doing with their ELs during these 2 blocks. Due to the level of compliance and instruction support required at our sites and for our teachers, we were very fortunate to add an additional coach this year. And we were able to welcome Jenny McAllister to our team, where both of them serve anywhere from 5 to 6 schools where they provide professional development, they provide coaching sessions, as well as targeted support for our site administration, both as instructional coaches, but then also that compliance piece as well. As Dr. De Leon mentioned earlier, we do offer 120 minutes a day to our English learners, and that's broken down into 2 blocks. Our first block is our integrated ELD instruction block, and that is where our tier 1 reading and where our English learners are integrated into the tier 1 reading block with their peers, and they receive scaffolds that are identified by the teachers while they are lesson planning, as well in coordination with an ELP standard, so that their needs are met. The evidence of this will be in our master schedules for the sites, as well as the lesson plans that you will see an example of shortly. For our targeted ELD instruction, it's an additional 60 minutes a day. And this is basically their intervention block. It is very intense. It's explicit instruction. And as Dr. Pettit mentioned, we do use curriculum or language power as the curriculum. And it's a very small targeted tier 2 intervention at the daily basis. As Dr. De Leon mentioned, we have already started to put actions in place in the spring, working with other departments. All of our master schedules now reflect adequately labeled master schedules, and you can see an example of this in yellow, the integrated ELD instruction block, also our tier 1 reading block, and then in red is the targeted ELD instruction or their intervention block. Our lesson plans, one of the audit findings actually was for about the documentation piece, the evidence of what we are teaching. And so this year, Dr. De Leon and Ms. McAllister created 2 lesson plan templates, one for the integrated ELD block and one for the targeted ELD block. The integrated ELD lesson plan includes the RSD ELP standard, which all the teachers can now find in the curriculum documents. Also the corresponding learning target, as well as any scaffolds that they will put in place to support our English learners during that tier 1 integrated block. On the other hand, our targeted ELD lesson plan is more comprehensive. It's more in depth. It does require that they have the lesson component, the language domain or domains, as well as the language standard, and then as well the corresponding learning target. Both of these documents are found in a teacher's EL binder that's located in the classroom, and it's really a hub of resources, both for the teacher as well as documentation. The site administrators also have access to the EL binders, and that is new this year based on our OLS results. And lastly, based on the feedback from our stakeholders, as well as the findings from OLS, we really, and in collaboration with the Essential Standards Committee and our coaches, we really wanted to provide robust documents for our teachers. And as you can see, this is an example of one of our reading curriculum maps. We have included helpful links for our teachers that provide links to the structured English immersion pullout structure, as well as any additional resources for them right at their fingertips. And that's on all of our reading curriculum maps, as well as they have embedded the ELP learning targets so that they do not have to go search for them online. And they are also labeled as to when they should be taught, corresponding with our state standards. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Jenny McAllister.
All right, so now we're going to dive into our district adopted targeted EL curriculum, Language Power. This resource is designed specifically for English language learners and provides differentiated lessons that focus on all 4 domains of language: reading, writing, speaking, and listening. One of the strengths of language power is that the texts are thematically grouped. And so that means that the students are not only building academic language, but also deepening their content knowledge and critical thinking skills within the meaningful contexts. Another benefit is that the lessons are easy to use and standards-based, so teachers can focus on the essential skills. At the same time, the structure allows students to make personal connections to themselves, their families, and their own languages. It creates opportunities for students to share their experiences and celebrate their home cultures, which is so important in fostering both language growth and a sense of belonging in their classroom. One thing we've consistently heard from the teachers is how easy language power is to implement, and that many teachers are appreciating how straightforward the lessons are, noting that they don't have to spend hours figuring out adaptations because everything is ready to use, and the students are engaged right from the beginning. This year, we provided multiple layers of professional learning to support teachers with language power and with English learner instruction overall. We started with Academy of Mine, in which we offered online courses to help teachers launch language power last year and to learn how to effectively lesson plan within the program. From there, we held several targeted instruction sessions with TCM, the creators of Language Power. These in-person trainings allowed our teachers to dive deeper into the program and plan for their instruction. And during these sessions, we also reviewed expectations for the targeted ELD block to make sure that everyone felt clear and supported. At Admin Academy this summer, we hosted an EL program overview and expectation sessions for principals, assistant principals, and instructional coaches. And in this meeting, we shared our findings from the EL program monitoring, and we clarified expectations for implementing the SCI pullout model, as well as for both targeted and integrated instruction. At Summer Institute, we provided an integrated instruction online session where teachers learned about the expectations for integrated instruction that align with ADE's requirements. And we also provided a professional development session for our targeted EL teachers, ensuring that they had clarity about both the structure and the goals of that dedicated time. And so altogether, those opportunities ensured teachers had both the knowledge and practical tools to feel confident in delivering EL instruction. Each campus is required to have an identified EL coordinator each year, and this position comes with a stipend based on the board-approved stipend schedule. The EL coordinator plays a critical role in ensuring that our English learner program runs smoothly and that we're in compliance with state and district expectations. On the screen, you can see some of the roles and responsibilities of those EL coordinators. This includes supporting teachers, helping with communication, ensuring that our EL students receive the services they need to be successful. And for the first time this past summer, we were able to offer EL Summer School Intervention designed specifically for our newcomer students and pre-emergent and emergent learners. On the slide, you can see the resource that was used for the EL Summer School Intervention. This school resource was created intentionally for newcomers and beginning English language learners. It included picture cards with visuals for key school-related words and phrases, full-color vocabulary books with definitions, spaces for notes, a read-along book, and a multilingual family guide filled with tips and helpful phrases to support the families with the transitions and to keep language learning going beyond the classroom. And overall, this was a major highlight of our year last year, I think, and a meaningful step in supporting our newest learners. Thank you.
All right, just to wrap us up, the last piece that we have in place is our own internal EL audit or study. And from what you can see on the screen, there's two big pieces to it. First of all is a major deep data dive, collecting all of the data well beyond what we see OLS doing for compliance, looking at instruction from a not just is it happening at the right time with the right kids in there, but the quality of the delivery of that, along with other important information in interviews with students and families and staff, feedback surveys. And then as a result, we'll be getting a comprehensive report to help guide that. That audit is happening through Finita, which you might remember approving. And the way that Dr. Tiechia shares, you've got compliance, which we get through our support from ADE, and that gives us a snapshot in time. It tells us if we're meeting state and federal requirements. It ensures all of those logistical pieces, schedules, documentation are in order. But the audit that is happening, I like to use the word study because I think audit can have negative connotations, but this deeper study, as I'll call it, it's more of a lens into seeing truly what strengths and gaps exist and helps to give us a clear roadmap. Again, moving from compliance into consistency in our EL programming. So we really look forward to getting that information and how it will help strengthen what we have in place. At the same time, we're really proud of, there's been a tremendous amount of work that has gone into strengthening our program just over the last 6 months. And I want to finally just give the team one more shout out for all of their hard work and passion. That's truly a love for our EL students and wanting to do what's best for them. So with that, thank you.
Okay, board members, any questions for the team?
Yes, Madam President. First, thank you for the presentation and the work you've been doing all year long. Can you just briefly, in layman's terms, talk about the reclassification screen on the Azella data in terms of the 8% and the 10.24% that the general public may not completely grasp, but can you just kind of break that down a little bit?
So this rate represents our students who have tested out of the Azella program. So that also includes students who increased to proficiency level. So that is where we're at with our 10.24% right now.
Thank you.
And thank you. Just to add to that, board member Butts, board members, executive team, and Roosevelt community. The Azella test is again a test of oral reading, writing, and speaking, listening, and so we do have a significant amount of newcomers here. That's why we created that summer school experience to be able to push them up a reclassification rate, but also as we improve our reading and writing delivery for all of our students during that tier 1, it's also going to support our EL kids, which we see that we have a gap with reaching in our EL population along with the rest of our students, the writing skills. So that's why we're really pushing that. Thank you.
Madam President, Dr. Portillo, I was excited also to hear about this EL summer school and the resources that we provided. Could you speak a little bit more about like the communication that when we provided these backpacks to our students, was there, did the parents and the families, were they aware of how to use these resources and how, these decisions that we're doing here at the district can also support them in their at their home, and they can practice with the child?
Yes, these are backpacks that were actually designed to take home. The original resource was designed to give to our newcomer students and have them practice at home. We kind of built on that in collaboration with TCM. They helped us create a teacher guide. So these didn't only go home with the students, but they did some work in the classroom first to kind of build that background knowledge. And then they took those home. And they come with a family guide that parents can use and kind of guides them on how to continue using those resources at home. And the guide is also available in multiple languages, so they could scan a QR code on the cover of the guide to access it in their home language if needed.
Wonderful, thank you.
Madam President, Dr. Portillo, as a follow-up to that, I thought that was a good question. Well, first of all, I do have to say a comment. I was very impressed with how you ladies are looking so professional today. Beautifully done. And then I was really impressed with the presentation. But piggybacking on the summer school thing. So my understanding is that there are 80 students were invited, and of those 80, 40 participated. Was this at a particular campus that we did this, or was this just take home?
All the students that were already identified qualify for summer school, we scanned that list to identify who were the pre-emergent emergent students from the original summer school roster. And we make calls to all of those families, letting them know of this intervention block that will take place. And we let them decide if they wanted their students to attend or not. For the most part, those that didn't participate was either because they had other commitments outside of the schedule, the original schedule that they planned for their kids to attend summer school. And others communicated that they wanted they would have multiple kids attending summer school, not just their pre-emergent emergent student. So if the siblings were not pre-emergent emergent, unfortunately, due to the characteristics of this resource, they couldn't stay for that block. It was meant for those pre-emergent emergent. So some of the families decided not to keep just one child when they had multiple children attending summer school, which is something that we want to plan for in the future, having more opportunities, not just for pre-emergent emergent, but for all of our students.
Wonderful. And I think it's wonderful that we gave those resources to those families, because it's not only good for the child, but the parents, so that they can study with that child. So I think that's a great idea. I'm sure you're evaluating, but for next year, is there a plan to redo this, but maybe widen how many students we get involved in this program?
There's nothing currently planned, but we do have more of these backpacks with the intention of continuing with this and again, building on to that. So it's something that we will definitely plan in the upcoming future.
Yes, we began planning summer school around January as well. So we'll also have to be revisiting budget at that time along with our data.
Board members, thank you for the questions. I just have a quick question on the OLS corrective action piece. I know that that's a standard part of OLS audits. With that OLS corrective action plan, is there a set date for when OLS will come back to re-audit and do all of their pieces? And if so, what's that date?
I can answer that one, Madam Vice President.
Great.
You know what? We're really excited that they are jumping right back in immediately. So they will be here actually next Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday.
Wow.
They
Okay.
gave us time to launch the year and hit when those windows close for like a Zella placement, and they'll be right back out.
Just barely they did. All right. Thank you so much for that.
No
No, I
problem.
appreciate that. So then we'll have some updates as we go forward. Perfect.
Yeah,
Thank you
and
so much.
I would just shout them out to what they shared from the beginning. With just like the first time through, there was a whole bunch of information that had to be uploaded last 2 weeks ago. So some of the documentation, so our team was working incredibly hard to get that done and support campuses in doing so, especially in the first couple of weeks of the school year. But next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they'll be out there visiting the campuses.
And I know what a fun experience that is to go through that amount of paperwork. Just thank you so much. And I'm really excited to hear the updated data that comes back. And thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to move on to public participation right now. Before we move on to public participation, I just want to clarify a few things that came up in our last meeting. When we have public participation during our meetings, we have some meetings that are two-way communication where we can interact directly with the community. Public participation in our regular board meetings is not a two-way communication opportunity. So we do have opportunities for individuals from the community to come and speak. We have microphone. We have 3 minutes. We have an opportunity for anyone to fill out that a form and be able to come speak to the board, speak to the community. We as the board and at the executive team do not have the opportunity to respond in that moment. So if you're sharing with us, we are here, we are listening, we're able to hear all of that information. The superintendent or the executive team or the appropriate person is able to follow up with you after. We are not able to respond to you in the moment. We are not able to answer any clarifying questions in the moment. We are here to listen, but we're not able to respond. And so I just wanted to clarify that because I know we do have a lot of different opportunities available, and that can be confusing if you joined us for two-way communication. You're used to asking those questions and then you're not able to do it in this space. So we are going to move into public participation. We have, it looks like, Maria, 3 folks today. Is that correct? Okay. So we are going to move into public participation. When you come up, you will have, when I call your name, you will have 3 minutes for each speaker. I'm going to go ahead and read the admonition. Personal attacks upon board members, staff, personnel, or other people in attendance or absent by individuals who address the board are discouraged. Presenters are cautioned that statements or representations concerning others that convey an unjust or unfavorable impression may subject the presenter to civil action for defamation. As a reminder, the board will not respond directly to public comments. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. I have Elvira Buffington. Go ahead and come up, and you've got your 3 minutes. Then just make sure the microphone is on when you get started. You hit that button.
Yeah, I think you can hear me.
Perfect.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Elvira Buffington, and I am a parent of Valley View Leadership Academy. For over a month, I have been in contact with the district leadership regarding the failure to maintain adequate air conditioning in both the cafeteria and the gym during this extreme heat. For weeks, children were held in those spaces, even under heat warnings. And yet, parents were told in official communications that the units were fully operational. On August 15th, families received a message claiming that all repairs were complete, but the repairs were not complete until August 26th, when another message went out saying that the HVAC units had finally been repaired and were currently functioning as expected. Both cannot be true. This isn't just about air conditionings. It's about trust. Parents were misled. Communications from the district painted a picture of problems resolved when they were not, and families were left without clear and honest updates. I have previously asked and requested this board to launch an internal investigation into how this was handled and why misinformation was allowed to be shared, and how communication with parents can be improved moving forward. This request has gone unanswered, so I am here today making this request in person. Our children's safety and our community's trust depends on it. I would like to add that the only thing that we want as parents is transparency, accountability, and communication. And earlier, Madam Vice President, you said that you encourage us to hold you guys accountable when we feel that you're not doing not your job, but your best. I would like to share this little bit of an email that I received from one of the leaders of the district office. Moving forward, though, I will not be able to communicate or continue assigning staff to this project, meaning my questions about the AC units, as well as requests from me in this regard. As communication is shared with all parents at Valley View, you will continue to receive that information. At the same time, please know that there is no need for additional questioning, as everyone involved is working towards the same goal, doing our jobs in the best intentions to support students. We were asked to not ask questions, but we were asking questions because you were not sharing information with us. And when we asked the questions, we were told there are too many questions. I think that as parents, we should not fight this hard to get the truth from our district leaders. Thank you.
All right, up next we have Maria Valenzuela.
Good evening, Madam President, Vice Madam President.
Can you just make sure that the microphone is on?
Yes,
Perfect.
hear me. Perfect. And members of the board and community of Roosevelt School District. I am here as this week actually marks my 6-month anniversary, just 6 months at Spaces of Opportunity. So I just want to take the time to thank you all for the collaboration. And also, I just want to make sure that we are all aware that Spaces of Opportunity remains committed to the Roosevelt School District community, to the families and the children. And excuse me. We are continually strengthening our policies and procedures to serve our community with fairness and transparency. And we appreciate the collaboration with Roosevelt School District and welcome ongoing dialogue to better the community and spaces as a whole. Thank you.
All right. And finally, we have John Juan Angeles. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Madam President, Madam Vice President, members of the board, and all you folks. I am the CEO of the Orchard Community Learning Center and also a member of the board of Spaces of Opportunity. And I basically would just want to come and say, yay, we're moving forward with the Spaces of Opportunity project. We're fairly young as a 501(c)(3). It began out of a conversation at Brooks Community School 11, 12 years ago, and has grown into just recently becoming its own C3. The representation on the board at Spaces is representative of the community and we've all been putting up this incredible energy to bring this. But now we have Maria, and I want to celebrate that. I also want to celebrate that for the first time. Well, Roosevelt, of course, is the key here because they're the landholder and the lessor. But now for the first time on the Spaces board, we also have a Roosevelt superintendent. So we're pretty excited about that. And I think that as an educator, this is an incredible opportunity within our community because it happens to be centered in the middle of a community. So that land, I knew that land when it was a farm before, and then I knew that land when it was vacant after Roosevelt bought it. And what has happened since then is the neighborhood grew up around it. And so it has schools close by, 2 that are temporarily closed and or for community use, and then Conchos, of course. And so it's unique in the United States in terms of its size, its diversity of activity, its food focus, and its interface with schools. We've got a team going to Tucson on Friday to look at what Tucson and University of Arizona is doing in schools and with community in urban farming and school gardens. And I just want to keep this, encourage us to be on the table because it's something that's so, in my experience, been in Roosevelt since 1978, and I've never seen this much of a grassroots possibility with such, again, diversity of growers and participants. And invite you out September 13th to our farmers market as it reignites in the fall. So thank you.
Thank you to everyone who spoke today. We do appreciate you coming and sharing your thoughts, sharing your opinions, and it is an important place for us to be able to hear from all members of the community. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to reports. So item 4.01, that's the superintendent's report. So we're going to hand it over back again to Dr. Portillo.
Thank you, Madam Vice President, Madam President, members of the board, executive team, and Roosevelt community. For my superintendent's report today, we are going to briefly discuss our summer school programs and then also give you an update on our enrollment now that the 10-day drop has passed. And with that, I'd like to invite Ms. Jessica Montelongo and Ms. Lorena Rojas, who served as the principals of the summer school program for the district, which was held at Valley View this summer.
Good evening, RSD community, Madam President, Governing Board, Superintendent, and Executive Team. My name is Jessica Montelongo. I'm the current Assistant Principal at Cesar Chavez, and I had the opportunity to serve as our summer school principal.
Hello, good evening. My name is Lorena Rojas, and I am the assistant principal at Valley View Leadership Academy, and I was the assistant principal during summer school.
All right, so we're going to do a quick program overview, some logistical slides, and then we'll get into the data. So for our certified staff for summer school, we had 3 algebra teachers. We had 20 K through 7th teachers, 2 social workers, and then our classified staff, we had attendance clerk, our Valley View custodial, parapros, nurse, cafeteria staff, and 7 bus drivers. Thank you so much to our bus drivers as they played a crucial role in getting our students on campus safely. So once again, each role was intentionally placed for a safe, effective learning environment at summer school. So for our attendance, we had a total of 342 students. Out of those students, 55 were algebra students. We originally rostered more, so we had 70% participation for our K-7 students, and then we had 85% participation for our algebra students. It really boiled down to 2 main reasons as to why there were less students. That came down to our rostering. We did notice that a lot of families and students were showing up without being rostered. And then on top of that, we had a very strict attendance policy. 2 absences resulted in a drop of the program. So because of that, our numbers did go down. I had daily check-ins with the attendance clerk. And then just as a side note, I did meet with district leadership early this August, and we talked about some adjustments to the rostering process to ensure that we can continue summer school and have it be more sustainable. I briefly want to talk about the curriculum. I know the teaching and learning team talked about TMC, so teacher created materials. That is the resource that we use for K-7 summer school. It did come with the pre and post assessment. We did not use that. The reason for that is we relied on our STAR data. We'll talk about that shortly. And we had to pivot with one of the post assessments for math. We did have 2 curriculum representatives, and overall, I can say that the teachers spoke very highly of the curriculum, even to the extent that they wanted to know if we could use it during the regular school year. So I just want to say thank you to the board and thank you to teaching and learning for investing in that curriculum. So we do have some walkthrough data. It was very important for us to be in the classrooms, whether they were informal or through our digital format. We walked through the classrooms daily. Students were engaged, teachers were focused on instruction, and the curriculum was used at all times. So it was very clear proof of student learning during summer school. All right, so moving on to data, one of the most important aspects of summer school are our MAUR students. So moving on with reading students, our students that are below grade level in ELA, they have to go to summer school for 3rd grade. Within that, we had 85% of students that moved on to 4th grade. So that's definitely a huge celebration. 6 students were retained, but that's just due to attendance. We did do 3 attempts of communication with the families, along with notifying site principals of who the students were. So we did try our best to get our kiddos there, but unfortunately 6 did not attend. 2 students did not show growth, but overall 11 students promoted with an 85% pass rate. I do want to give a shout out to Mr. Taylor. He is a teacher at Greenfield. He did lead the 3rd grade MAUR students to the successful passing rate. So thank you, Mr. Taylor. Yeah. All right, so end of summer school assessment for ELA, as mentioned, we did use STAR. So I specifically want to highlight the growth that kindergarten made. We saw that 76% of students for ELA grew. 1st grade was 72% and 6th grade was 85%. Those are just some of the highlights for our end of summer school ELA data. We did have to pivot from math. We did not end up using STAR for math. That was a day decision we had to make. Unfortunately, the test was not available the day we had scheduled it, but it was important for us to still have data to see what our students did. They did not take the pre-assessment for teacher created materials, but that's because we were using the end of 2025 school year data for math. So really STAR and TCM don't correlate, but we can track the proficiency through summer school. I do want to highlight that 5th grade math had 53% proficient and 33% highly proficient. 6th grade was 46% proficient, and then kindergarten was 42% proficient. So kindergarten very strong for our summer school program. Another part of our summer school program was the algebra qualifying test, so the AQT. We did have, as I mentioned, 55 students, but 52 students took the AQT test on June 24th. We did have
4 students passed, so that is a 7% passing rate. But for what it's worth, this was the first year that we've offered a summer program. We planned with the algebra teachers over the summer. They used the Phoenix Union scope and sequence along with the Carnegie curriculum that the district currently uses. So I do think it is a work in progress. Once again, I met with leadership, I met with the exec team, and we kind of talked about next steps for algebra. It was mentioned earlier, the newcomer, the English language learner program. I have 29 rostered. I know that might be a little conflicting what was mentioned earlier, but at the end of summer school, we had 29, and that could be due to the absences. So what they reported was 40. That is true. It's not that it's not true. But by the end, we only had 29. Looking at their STAR data, 72% of our students that were in the newcomer program demonstrated ELA growth. And I specifically want to highlight one of our kiddos that was a 5th grader. This 5th grader jumped from a 615 to a 828. So that is still minimally proficient, but it is a growth of 213 points within 5 weeks. So definitely wanted to highlight that student. And then I just wanted to take note, it was a pretty long day for our EL students. So I think just moving forward, being creative on how to maximize their time and their minutes for EL services. They did have to stay until 3 o'clock. So essentially their day was 7:30 to 3, and it is summer school. So just some considerations, but once again, I met with the exec team, but our teachers and our students were awesome for our newcomer program. And then last, we did have a celebration. We proudly honored and celebrated Juneteenth on June 18th. All kindergarten, 8th grade, and algebra students learned about the significance. They created door displays and had a meaningful discussion during class. There was a gallery walk and reflection and celebration on that day. So to wrap up, next steps are to track algebra students, their end of year summer school data with the beginning year fall math assessment that they just took. The window just closed recently. So I know Ina and Dr. Pettit are working on the report, and that would be the same for our ELA students, tracking how did they leave summer school and how did that reflect in their data of the STAR assessment that they just took. I did debrief with the executive team along with Ms. Rojas. So we're going to continue to monitor our STAR scores and follow our students, whether they're in algebra, an EL kiddo, ELA, and math, to see if they're a candidate for summer school next year, to see if we can invite some new students for the year to come. So in closing, summer school 2025, the goal was to support our goal of 45 and 5. We wanted a strong start to the school year, and we were focused that it was a continuation of school. Thank you for the opportunity to share. I am open to any questions, or I'd love to join a study session should there be any further discussion.
Okay, thank you so much. Board members, any questions?
Yes. Thank you for that presentation, Ms. Montelongo. I know that the Math Academy was also offered for non-Roosevelt, so I'd like to see if the data, I know it's not handy right now, but how many of those students were from non-Roosevelt district, if that was an opportunity? Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Board Member Castro Corral and members of the board executive team and Roosevelt community. We were actually not able to follow through with that original plan because of the funding source that we utilized to pay for the summer school experience. It prohibits us to offer it to anyone at charge or no charge that is not enrolled in our district. So we do apologize as we plan forward. Should we do that, we'd need to ensure that we use a different funding source.
Thank you. I mean, but I do think it is great that we worked with Phoenix Union just to prepare our kiddos for the next step. So thank you for that.
Okay. Any additional question?
I think I know the answer. I think it would be logical, but I do want to ask it anyways. For the students that we were seeing, I know there were 2 students that were mentioned for 3rd grade that did not show any growth. We're following up with trying to see about any evaluations or why that was happening.
Yeah, great question. Thank you, board member. So yes, Ina and the leadership team for teaching and learning are aware of who the 2 students are. I can say when we took the test, I believe on a Tuesday. So by Wednesday, I was already notifying who needed to be notified if they were passing. We were able
to actually catch one, and it came down to an EL caveat of, the student previously wasn't given a placement test, therefore they were disqualified from being considered a Mauer student. So we were definitely looking at who the students were, and unfortunately, two did not show growth per their STAR assessment, but the district does know who they are, and I do believe that there's a plan for them.
Okay, any additional questions? Just wanted to say thank you, and I think it sounds also like it was a great experience for you in running summer school and getting that practice of leading that space. So just thank you for all of the work. And, I think a little round of applause.
Thank you.
Okay, and the last slide of the superintendent's report is on enrollment. Mr. Hawkins, can we have that last slide? Thank you. Enrollment slide. Oh, I'm sorry. I guess it's on your printouts. I apologize. So just to share, we had predicted that after we consolidated schools, we may lose some enrollment, right? And it's a single page. Thank you. And this, of course, will be more detailed along with our funding and budget reports that we send mid-month for you. But we had predicted that we would have some loss in enrollment. The total as of August 25 is minus 353 students. So that's approximately a little bit under a 5% drop in enrollment. As I spoke with other superintendents that are within the city metropolitan area, the Phoenix area, their drops in enrollment within the urban core continue to be within 3 to 5% as well. And they didn't consolidate schools. So the further study as we dig deeper that we're doing is tracking the retention rates by campus and then by combination, and then developing follow-up plans for those that did leave us. We're able to track where they went. If they went to a public school, whereas it be charter and or district, we do have that information. So we want to follow up with them and also re-invite them back to our district right around maybe October when they might have experienced different frustrations. We want to make sure that we're there and ready to say, come on back. We're waiting for you here. We miss you here. So that's our strategy, to try to make direct contact with some of those students. Now, if they left for private school, we are able to track that through our grants department. But we know the majority of our students, the trend is that when they do choose a different option, they're choosing one of the charter schools within South Phoenix. So we're tracking that. We did see increases at Greenfield. And so I want to say that we did move some special programs from one school to the other school. So the numbers that you have are without special education programs so that we don't confuse those numbers. So again, we saw an increase at Greenfield of 35 students as of last Friday. We saw an increase at Sunland, given Sunland's enrollment, and then also it's combining schools enrollment together. We had not only that same amount, 100% of that amount of students enroll, we also had 75 students above that enroll at Sunland. We also had an increase of enrollment at TG Bar of 14 students, and then at Valley View of 43 students. So our analysis is also including whether some of that increase came from within our district or if it actually came from students who were previously choosing outside sources, and then now they're choosing to come to Roosevelt. So there's a lot of further analysis to do here, but one of our guardrails is to keep the board abreast of understanding and knowing enrollment patterns and its direct impact on budget. So again, that drop was of 353, which is in line with what other City of Phoenix districts are experiencing. that did not have a school consolidation. It is different though from our previous track where we had 2 years of increased enrollment.
Thank you, Superintendent. I think just a question, this is more for future board follow-up as we get continued enrollment and communication. I would love to see any information we have about some of the drops at campuses that were not consolidated and what might be some of the factors contributing there. Obviously, we know some of this consolidation and factors going into those campuses. So as we send out future communication, any clarifying factors or anything we find out would be really helpful to see. Any additional questions from the board?
Dr. Portillo, a follow-up is, as we're seeing some of these numbers with like, some schools are going down, other schools are going up. Are we keeping track if some of these students are transferring from one of our district schools to another district school? Is that another thing that we're keeping track of?
Yes, yes. So we want to make sure that we have a good eye on that. So in the deeper data analysis that we'll present to board, it does show where they went, whether it be so movement across our campuses and retention rates within our campuses. So our district retention rate is 86%. So we were able to maintain, even if they move within schools, 86% of our students, which leaves us then, lots of space to be able to raise that retention rate. But we do have that retention rate by campus. And again, what you're seeing, a report of, how many kids maybe that went to Sunland actually came from other schools within our district versus those that came from other schools not within our district.
Thank you, Superintendent Portillo. Appreciate the update and appreciate your continued focus on net enrollment and communication as per the guardrail. All right, we're moving on to item 4.2, which is board member update. We're going to start with Ms. Pena. Any updates from you, Ms. Pena? Great. Ms. Castro-Corral, any updates? Dr. Butts? I would just want to name that we as a board have met several times in the last month. So while school was kicking off, we have been here along with you. We had and it wasn't even a half day retreat, it was a full day retreat in the month of August, as well as a study session in addition to our regular meeting. And anytime that we're here, the executive team is here with us. So just again, a thank you to the executive team, a thank you to our tech support, a thank you to everyone who went into supporting us and to really spending the time preparing to walk us through all of the wonderful work that you're doing this year, that the district is doing this year to be able to advance our student outcome goals. So we were really using that time to make sure that we knew the ins and outs of a lot of the things that are happening in the classroom so that we can come into our progress monitoring conversations informed and able to ask the right questions. So again, just really appreciated all of the time that everyone invested there. Moving on to item 4.03, REA report. So we would love to welcome Dr. Martha Thomas to the podium.
Good evening, Madam Vice President. President Hodge, yes, wherever you are. Governing board members, Dr. Portillo, our executive team, RSD community, and my REA community. I am Martha Thomas, social worker over at Bernard Black, and I am also the REA president. My report for this evening is that we are currently at 380 members, which is the highest we have had that I know of. We're continuing to recruit. We have sent out the emails, the calendars for all of our administrators and all of our members to know when we're going to be on their campuses to offer services and everything else for our staff that may want to join. We are also in the process of planning our ESP event, which will be coming up in November for all of our ESP members. And today we had a very great morning visit from our NEA president, Becky Pringle, who she is our national president overall, all of our states. We also had Marisol Garcia come in with her, and she is our president over our state association. we got together with Dr. Portillo and a number of our partners that we work together with for the Roosevelt School District to discuss, more importantly, how we can help our families, our children in terms of ICE and all of those issues that are going on and taking place that affect our children and our families. We shared a lot of information, a lot of good work that's being done by many of them, hard work that's being done. But in the end of all of that, we also got a wonderful surprise from Becky that she is donating, or the NEA is donating, the National Education Association is donating $10,000 to our pantries, or our pantry over at Cesar Chavez High School. So we were really excited for that. It was a great opportunity for me because I've never had the time with her to be able to sit with her, let alone 5 minutes. And then we had an hour and a half, 2 hours. So that was really nice. But that is my report. Any questions for me?
Board members, any questions? Just again, really exciting to see that our Roosevelt community is being recognized and supported kind of at the national level and the state level. And again, just from the board also, a huge thank you for that donation for our families and supporting our families as well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're moving on to 4.04. This will shock everyone, but I'm going to hand it back to Dr. Portillo to provide an update on reinventing RSD.
Thank you. Thank you. So reinventing RSD, as you, as board members know, but for community, is a recurring part of our board meeting where we provide updates on how we are doing with reinventing not only the consolidation of schools, but now using our funds to reinvent our district and enhance all the things that we're doing for families and students. So today we're going to focus on 3 areas. One of them being an update on what we're doing with our bond dollars to improve our facilities and then also our playgrounds. Not all that we're doing, but what we're doing in this month and the next couple of months. Also, we have a presentation from our project manager, Mr. Victor Vidales, who's going to be giving us a timeline and orientation as to the process we're going to take to repurpose the buildings that were left without students. And then we will close it out with an update from Jason Kyle, our transportation director. So with that, I'd like to call Mr. Gabe McDaniel to the podium. And Gabe, as you know, is a newer employee. He came to us a position that you approved that is funded out of the bond to help manage the bond dollars. As a plug, thank you again to our community for approving a $150 million bond, the largest bond in Roosevelt history, last November at the election. So thank you for that. And we're going to be regularly letting the community know what we're spending that money on.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Portillo, executive team, Roosevelt community. I'm pleased to give you a bond update. Brittany. Okay, I want to start tonight. Oop, little closer. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I want to start with our work over at Greenfield. We are going to go ahead and we're working through an ultra modern playground for Greenfield. We have ADA collaboration zones built in, a really cool exercise station. We're super excited with the way this design turned out. Happy to give it to them. We're looking at winter break start for that. Go ahead, Nate. Okay, next one is going to be for Julian. This is also a playground. Similar situation here. We're choosing to stay with more of a modern look. Also really staying keyed in our ADA access, our ADA collaboration zones so that kiddos can play together. We also added some music play and a nice trek path. little bit of turf thrown in there to make everything look really nice, and it's also low maintenance for us. That one will be starting in October. So we're also going to offer up to Kennedy. We're going to put a playground at Kennedy. This is an expansion. We're going to utilize some pre-existing land there. We're going to expand the playground. It's a hybrid and modern traditional. So we're going to be able to capitalize on the modern and a little more obscure structures as well. So the kiddos get both best of both worlds there. Also, again, ADA. Apparatus, collaboration zones, some great music, a sensory slide as well, rolling sensory slide for those kiddos, and we're looking to start in October as well. Any questions? Right? Okay. Also, one more. Sorry. Also, I had the opportunity to go ahead and walk Maxino Bush to aid in the repurposing with our innovative principal, Crystal Danzy. So we went through that and we started to take the first initial look at how we're going to give Bush a nice facelift and really pick our brains on what we're going to do to set that school to the next level here. Any questions?
Board members, any questions? One thing I do want to name, just thank you again, I think, on behalf of the board. And I know our previous president, Michelle Camposano, would echo this. Thank you so much for prioritizing the ADA, not just the access, but also the inclusivity of making sure that all of our students are able to play with each other and have access to that playground. There is nothing worse than looking at a playground that you cannot play on. And I know that that is a huge piece of our students' enjoyment of that space. So thank you so much for that. Although I will say, when you said an ultra modern playground, like what came to my head was the Jetsons, which tells you how old that I might be.
I'm in there with you, so.
Yes, so thanks. No, appreciate that.
Thank you, everybody.
So I do want to name that if your school is not mentioned, it doesn't mean that you're not getting anything. It just means that it's not on tonight's report. So also I wanted to invite Mr. Victor Vidales to the podium. So Mr. Vidales, one forward. There we go. Mr. Vidales, I just want to make sure I tell you a little bit about him. He brings extensive leadership experience. He has served on multiple different city, state, and national committees. He was a school level principal before. He is a Roosevelt alumni. He went to all of our schools. He also serves on multiple Roosevelt community committees. He is he has served under multiple mayors as well, supporting them in their different committee work. He has extensive business background. He has grown his business to become a multi-million-dollar business, still housed in South Phoenix. He never left South Phoenix. He grew up here and he continues to live here and raise his family here. And we really appreciate that connection he has with Roosevelt, and also excited to share with you the beginning of the timeline for the work he'll be doing to engage community, specifically the neighbors around the schools, but then also the community at large, in helping us find significant and fruitful purpose for those buildings that were closed, and also ensure that we are getting the right type of partner/tenant in those rooms, in those buildings, so that we also can financially make sure that we remain stable and getting good stewards, right, of those facilities that are public facilities.
Thank you, Dr. Portillo, and thank you, Madam President and board members, the community Deputy Superintendent Battle, for having me tonight. I do just want to share a little bit more. I didn't go to all Roosevelt schools, but I definitely went to a lot of them, including the original Roosevelt here. But right, the impact that these teachers had in my life, in Roosevelt School District, are still playing dividends today. Mrs. Kalachi, my third grade teacher at John F. Kennedy, taught me how to do math and really helped me to understand, to not skip steps and understand the process. Life-changing. Fourth grade teacher, Mrs. Aguilar, understanding the value of just etiquette, being polite, having manners. She really taught me about personal hygiene and taking care of myself. One, because she was beautiful and you wanted to look, nice for her. But, two, just the impact that it had around in the school. Mr. Grove, my fifth grade teacher, just a man that just taught everyone in his class how to communicate, how to use their words, how to write, how to understand things, and to really communicate well to people. And Mrs. Hightower, my sixth grade teacher, really started to imprint in me the foundations of entrepreneurship and really understanding what it was to set a goal, figure it out, sell candy bars, go to going to Back to the Future, little things that we were doing just to give us that extra edge, not only in class, but outside of class. And then some of the administrators like Maxine Bush, she was a great counselor. Those who known her in the community, she was just that person that really infused in you with her smile and with her confidence, that she made you feel happy. She made you feel confident. And then Dr. Eddie Lewis, the principal that ended up giving me my first SWAT. But the discipline that he taught me, and I couldn't get away from him, because at Greenfield, he gave me a SWAT there, and I was on the straight and narrow after that. And then he followed me over to Maxine Bush. So he was the first principal over there. So anyways, I just wanted to share that with you, because this means a lot to me to be a project manager for something that is so meaningful to the community. I saw what you guys went through as a board of directors and as superintendents. Those are very difficult decisions, and those decisions have been kicked down the road for many years. But now I get this opportunity to help with you present a scope. I believe there's a presentation in your package there on the timeline and milestones. I get the opportunity to facilitate a scope that's broken into 4 different phases. In that plan, you'll see that the Roosevelt School District Repurposing Plan is initial kickoff and discovery. I've been going through that process now. I've been gathering a lot of information from the district office, from Gabe. He's been super helpful. We walked all the campuses and really got to understand what's there. So during this first phase, I'm doing a lot of meetings with the leadership staff, clarifying expectations, priorities, and desired outcomes for each site. I'm gathering baseline data for each property, conditions, zoning, environmental issues, historic, cost of managing the facilities and running the facilities, mapping out key stakeholders for each property, creating outreach plans and survey instruments. That will lead me into phase 2, which is community engagement and data collection. The great thing about this school district and the facilities of John R. Davis, C.J. Jorgensen, Sierra Vista, V.H. Lassen, and 2 major 40 acres at 33rd Avenue, and then a smaller land. These are valuable assets. They're very well located in areas where they can provide a lot of benefit to the community. So there's already been a number of groups that have reached out to the district, including the Industrial Development Authority, who's built housing with other districts, Isaac School District being one of the top ones that have just recently gone through. So part of this community engagement will be conducting the outreach for at least 15 targeted stakeholders per site. These will consist of residents, nonprofits, small businesses, community partners, and banks, and then also the developers that have shown interest in the properties that are available. We'll also be administering surveys and hold listening sessions, maintain regular updates to RSD and participation rates and early feedback, and adjust accordingly. In phase 3 will be concept development and feasibility. In that process, we will draft 2 to 3 repurposing concepts per site with sample use models, complete high-level feasibility reviews for each site, identify potential partnerships and funding pathways. And then lastly, will be a final report and presentation and preparation. These documents we prepared for you in presentations, executive summaries, and PowerPoint decks for you to make decisions, present findings for the RSD leadership and potential school board, and provide all intellectual property that's developed over to the district. So at this point, I'm happy to take any questions that you might have on the process, the milestones, and how I can better serve you in the district.
Board members, any questions? Hearing no questions, I would just say, I think speaking on behalf of our board, we are really excited to come along with you as learners in this process and to hear, what the community is saying, what the community needs, and just how we can continue that process. I think we really started that as a board over the last few years to listen to the community and be able to hear back how we can better serve, how we can set up our goals, how we can better structure our service. And so I'm sure we're going to hear a lot of great things that come to the forefront that maybe we haven't yet heard, or they're framed differently, or they're changed since we had some of that initial communication. So truly, we are just really looking forward to being able to use you as a resource and be able to come alongside you as we get to hear all of that great information.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right. Anything else, Dr. Portillo? All right. Thank you so much. All right. We are moving on to the consent agenda items. Next item is 5.01, the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve consent agenda items 5.02 through 5.13 as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hodge, seconded by Ms. Pena. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye.
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 All right, motion carries. All right, we are moving along. Number 6.0, policy advisory. The next item is 6.0, policy advisory. This is the first and second read of the policy. Is there a motion to approve 6.01, the policy advisory? Dr. Hodge, is there anything else you'd like to add there?
No, this is just the sexual harassment policy that we need to approve. That's why we're doing the first and second read now.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. Is there a motion to approve item 6.01 to approve the policy advisory?
So moved.
Second. Moved by Ms. Pena, seconded by Ms. Castro Corral. Any discussion? All right. Hearing none. I know we got a chance to cover it in our study session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Motion carries. All right, and moving on, 6.02, we are cooking right now. Approve the ASBA proposed political agenda for school year 2025 through 2026. Dr. Hodge, correct me if I'm off base here, but this is referring to, we get to send some amazing delegates to the ASBA annual convention to be able to talk about some of the upcoming political things on the agenda, and they are representing Roosevelt. So our question here is there any additional things that we as the Roosevelt community want to adjust on that proposed ASBA political agenda? So that is the question at hand. Is there a motion to approve item 6.02 to approve the ASBA proposed political agenda school year 2025 through 2026?
So moved. Wait, I wanted to have a discussion about this one.
If we can move in second, then we can move to discussion. So I have a motion from Ms. Castro Corral, and then Dr. Hodge. Did I hear you as well?
Yes.
Okay, second from Dr. Hodge. And then is there any discussion for item 6.02?
Yeah, so I'm trying to understand, are we deciding to just kind of blanket accept their recommendations, the draft political agenda? Is that what we're doing?
Dr. Hodge, maybe you can clarify here. Is there anything additional that we need to know? Because my understanding here is that it is more, do we have anything specific that we as Roosevelt would like to add to that political agenda? Is that correct?
Correct. That's correct. The ask was that board members reviewed it to determine if they were not in agreement with the political agenda, and to send it to me prior to the meeting. I didn't get anything, so I'm assuming that everyone was okay with what was presented. And so basically it's just so ASBA can advocate on our behalf.
Okay. So I read through it in detail, and I actually took my time to read it through at first. And I apologize, Dr. Hodge. I was under the understanding that we were going to have this conversation here. So I was a little confused by what this process was like. So I'm so sorry about that. But I did read through this agenda. And the first time I read through, I had, my own takes on certain ideas there. And then I thought, well, you know what? I need to be able to make sure to look at this from the perspective of the district. And so with that in mind, I thought, okay, what do we use to help our perspective as a district? And so, of course, logically, it was student outcomes focused governance. And so with that in mind, as I started reading through the policies or the political agenda, which, by the way, there are a lot of things in there that are great. But as I started looking through the political agenda, the question kept arising, how does this align with student outcomes focused governance? How does this go with what our district has done to make sure that we are raising the bar and putting student outcomes first? And so there are definitely way too many questions that I have, and I wouldn't feel fully comfortable to just say I'm 100% okay with the 2026 political agenda. And also another thing, just to be clear, humans tend to have biases, right? And I'm very much aware of that. So I decided to try to search for a non-bias way of getting some answers to make sure, is this me that's making this up, or is it also something that could be interpreted by an unbiased source? So I use ChatGPT, you guys.
Famously unbiased.
I use ChatGPT, and I actually cut and pasted the political agenda on there, and I asked for it to look at it using student outcomes focused governance, to argue for the political agenda and to argue against the political agenda. And so a lot of the concerns that I had in regards to a lot of these ideas were confirmed. And it was because a lot of it is not student outcomes based. It's, a lot is adult inputs based. We're not seeing clear measurable goals for student learning in many of these ideas. And then there's nothing about monitoring progress towards goals. There's a lack of accountability in a lot of these things. Like I think another thing I just kept saying, there was a lot focused on funding, and we need to make sure that we're being very careful how we do that, because we don't want to be recreating what's been happening in districts where we've seen a lot of failures that really hurt a lot of staff members and a lot of teachers. We don't want that happening anywhere. And so I think accountability and putting those measures in place would make it far better. Of course, then the other thing is student outcomes focused governance asks us to avoid political distractions or resource fights that don't directly link to improved outcomes. So those are a few of the things, and it's a lot to kind of go over as a board, but I'm open-minded to go on Saturday and just kind of hear and listen and make those decisions.
Board Member Pena, is there a specific, if you were to think about one or two additions, it's obviously, to your point, there's what I hear you saying is the core components of student outcomes focused governance are missing, i.e. the focus on student outcomes. Do you have any potential proposals that you would like to consider adding, or anything that we could potentially add as an amendment there, or add as a motion that we would be able to add?
I mean, for the funding portions, I think, and I don't know how to draft it. So I think that's part of the problem with me, is I don't know how to draft a component so that we make sure that all of these decisions are being done with the idea that it is going to be focused on measurable goals, right? That we see a difference in, literacy rates throughout Arizona, because there's just so many details in here. So there's like, I just don't know how to draft it by myself. That was the only, and I wasn't going to ask ChatGPT either, you guys. So there's that. And then there's just a few other things in here. I think also as a district, we got to be very careful that that what we put out there, it's going to be interpreted by our own community. And so some of the things in here, I'm like, I'm not sure if that's going to really help us be able to, build good bridges with some community members.
Madam President, if I might offer a potential solution, and I'd love to have it up for board discussion. I think there's a space, because obviously for any individual item, the board member delegate can vote as they feel is appropriate. I think there's also a space to say, hey, do we as a board charge our delegate with raising some of those questions in that space and saying, hey, as part of that discussion, not necessarily do we have a specific item that we're bringing to the forefront, but we would like to ensure that we're raising that discussion about student outcomes, raising some of those points and saying, you know, hey, in this space, what we're not talking about is student outcomes. Where is this opportunity for us to bring this into the discussion? That would kind of leave the space open for, hey, we're not saying here's this specific proposal that we have drafted, but to say, hey, we want to start the discussion at a state level that we're talking about student outcomes across the state, not just in Roosevelt. So that might be a potential option. President Hodge, I would offer that would be less directive, but would be more, I guess, policy in alignment with our policy to speak with the voice of Roosevelt around student outcomes focused governance without speaking to any one specific policy.
Yes, and I just want to add a little color. So ASBA is advocating at the legislative level. Like this is, and because ASBA represents rural boards too, it's inclusive of that as well. And yes, I think there is a space for us to say, hey, this is what we do in Roosevelt. And I think the other piece of it is that the goal was for everyone to go through it and identify things that they were not okay with so that we can have a discussion so we didn't have to go through every single line item. So that was the intent of it. But I'm definitely open to us charging our two delegates with bringing up SOFG in that language. But I think are we okay with everything else that's in the policies? And if not, what specifically were items of concern? And now I'm opening it up to other board members to see if there's other concerns, or sorry, that's not my role today, but I would love to hear from other board members to see if there were other concerns with what was presented.
Madam President, yeah, I mean, seeing the political agenda, I understand that other districts aren't where the one of few that have adopted student outcome focused governance. So I do see this as a good opportunity as delegates to raise awareness of how it's working in our district, and also with other partnering with other districts for them to see how we are applying SOFG and how we see this political agenda, kind of where there are opportunities to, I don't know, bend the two. So I mean, I don't have a problem with this political agenda. I understand, as you mentioned, that ASBA is more just broad because it has to be representative of all districts. So just keeping in mind, yeah, that Roosevelt is one of few that has SOFG, but I'm happy to advocate along with you during our meeting our committee meetings about SOFG and how it works at our district.
For sure, Dr. Hodge, or Madam President and fellow board members, I love what was shared by you, Dr. Hodge, and as well, Dr. Frankiewicz. I love the idea of respectfully being able to represent Roosevelt and bring that perspective because you guys, let's just be real here. That's missing in the conversations. We're forgetting about the children and we're forgetting about their successes. And that's ultimately what, that's why it's like, this is a lot of information. And I think we just need to be there to raise that awareness so that other districts can see like, hey, we're forgetting the most important reason why we are here in these policies. And with that, so again, it's a lot, but I think it will give us a great opportunity to go do that in such a respectful manner.
All right. Any additional discussion? All right. Seeing that there is no further discussion, we will now vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 All right. Motion carries. Next up is item 7.01, information and discussion. I don't believe we have. Oh, all right, Dr. Portillo, never mind.
I got real excited about getting close to the end of the meeting and forgot a very important part of our our Reinventing Roosevelt presentation, which I said I was going to ask Mr. Jason Kyle to come to the podium to share an update on transportation. So I apologize, Mr. Kyle prepared for the meeting, and I apologize too. Sorry, you're very important, and as well as getting the kids to school safely. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for remembering me. Once again, my name is Jason Kyle, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Patil, executive team. Thank you for having me here. Transportation has partnered with community engagement to provide real-time updates with route coverage and expected delays. This transparency has reduced confusion for some of our families. So we're really proud of that in transportation. That's something that we've done. This has also increased the trust with our families as well. We also reinforced our driving training with focus on loading and unloading at the bus stops, especially with the little ones, right? Young students that have that are getting off at our buses without adult supervision. So our drivers have been doing a very good job of being diligent with that. Segue into that, we've also strengthened our drivers with information, more information. And this means that we provide them with roster information, emergency contact numbers, and grade identifiers. So this reduces any incidents that happen at our bus stops, and we can respond a little bit faster to emergencies. We improved route identifications. So we began installing route signs in our buses so they can be easily identifiable. In the past, we were identifying our routes by buses. This was confusing at times. So right now we have visible signs on our buses, which reduces the confusions, and especially when we have substitute drivers, right? Overall, these steps are just for better communications, safer practices, and just consistency across our system. Any questions for me?
Mr. Scott, I have just a question. I know transportation came up at our last meeting as a cause for concern. In terms of like when we do have concerns from parents or families about the route or about anything along the route, how does transportation get those concerns? And then how do you track to make sure that those concerns have been resolved, dealt with, et cetera? How does that work in the transportation department?
So we have a dispatch team. And in our dispatch team, we are receiving calls daily, right? Amongst our team, even when we're out of the office, what we've done to improve our communications is include all of our school sites when we are out of the offices in the afternoon and in the mornings. So when we receive phone calls, and if nobody's able to receive those phone calls, as soon as we return back to the office, we're checking our messages. I task our dispatchers as soon as we get back to the office, we're tracking the messages, we're writing it down. And we're logging them down as far as what's happening. And in those logs, we have what the concern is and what the resolution is to those messages. Also, we created a transportation email as well to provide to families. So they cannot contact us via telephone. Feel free to contact our transportation email and provide whatever information, concerns, or questions that they may have. So that's just a part of our process as far as making sure that we're calling our parents back, checking our messages, we're logging what the concerns are, and then we're logging our resolutions for those situations.
Got it. Thank you. And then just one more follow-up question. I know obviously I've been in a first day bus line and a second day bus line, and obviously it takes a little bit to get that route settled. From the first day of school till the routes were kind of established and running at their normal time, about how long did that take the transportation department to get to like normal bus time?
So what we have been doing is we started communicating with the families whenever there are any type of delays. So with the first 2 days, we understood that a lot of the parents' frustration was no communication. So this is what we did with partnering with community engagement. If we are expecting any type of delays, any route coverage changes, we are communicating with those families. So it took us about the end of that week, if even that, in order to resolve that situation.
Got it. Thank you. Board members, any questions?
If I could offer a little bit more too, because I know that Jason and team have been doing a lot of good work assessing some of the challenges that have existed, pardon me, President Hodge, as well as the board members and executive team and community. So multiple things have come up at different times. So what Mr. Kyle has said is true as it relates to that particular situation. We met regularly and ongoingly to look at just the dynamics of what was happening with the consolidation of campuses, with our special ed programs, with the vendors who don't exist any longer, that we had to re-engage. They've been working at it Monday through Sunday, AM to PM. So I want to make sure I commend Mr. Kyle and his team and the principals for their communication as it relates to our challenges. I would say maybe things started to calm down a little bit, maybe the beginning of the third week.
Yes.
Okay, so we probably had still some delays that we're trying to mitigate with our vendor partners, but each day it's getting better. But I can say, and to support and affirm what Mr. Kyle was saying, that the communication has been really good. May not be what you want to hear, but at least you know, right? And so we've decided to take that strategy. And again, thank you very much for all that you do, Mr. Kyle.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'd like to just add that one of the reasons that communication was also lagging is we continue to have just a dearth of applicants for the qualified applicants for the driver positions. We do have some strategies that will be on the board agenda for October that should help us to continue to be a more attractive employer to those few drivers that are out there. But one of the reasons that they had communications situations come up is because he and his staff that are in the office were also out driving, covering some of these routes. So that slowed down process as well as made some interruptions in communication. Also, towards the beginning, we had input coming to us from all kinds of sources. So streamlining that made it so that we weren't accidentally missing people that and coming back and reaching out to people who had expressed concerns. We had concerns coming in from here at the district office, calls maybe that were on messages awaiting for Mr. Kyle and his team. They're through our app, our Roosevelt parent app. There's ways also to leave concerns. So all of these multiple people trying to answer questions based on what they knew or what they thought the answer was also complicated things. So we have streamlined that not only for transportation, but for other concerns that parents have, so that our staff in the eagerness of wanting to respond to the question doesn't accidentally create expectations that are not reasonable or give information that is no longer current. So with transportation, we're streamlining and then sending all those answers straight to Mr. Kyle, since he is the director over transportation.
Got it. Thank you so much, and just appreciate the responsiveness and flexibility, and the jumping in to be able to solve those problems wherever they were arising and whatever level they were coming at. So thank you again for that update, and thank you for working so hard to make sure that we resolve that as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Thank you.
You may have already said this. Do we have a wait list, or is every student that needs to ride the bus is riding the bus?
We still have a process as far as what we're doing with partnering with ESS. As far as our general ed buses, we have routed those students. We provided that information to those students and families as far as routing. And we are constantly updating our parents and our ESS department with students that may have put in requests last week and what the process is.
Okay, so we do have a wait list?
So with ESS, it's a little different. So, right. So it just depends on the request and the families. Right now, it does take about 3 to 5 days to include with the route. So it's a short wait list, but we have a strategy and make sure and partnering with ESS as far as trying to get them routed as soon as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Goff. Thank you.
As a follow-up to that one, when we approved the new buses, have those buses come in already, Dr. Portillo?
Yes, so we're still waiting on 2 buses. And so when we do receive buses, we're very adamant about making sure that those vehicles are in working order. So when we do receive buses and we see any type of flaw, we go ahead and send it back. And that's what we've done with 2 vehicles. So we have a system with our garage staff to make sure that we're just not receiving vehicles, but we're making sure that's operational. We can get them on the road safely.
And to follow up with that one, if I remember correctly, the vast majority of those were buses that were equipped to take our special ed, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So we received those buses. I believe we're waiting on one more special needs bus,
Mhm.
which is allocated for our students in wheelchairs. And other than that, we received all of our vehicles, and we're waiting on one more electric bus.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right. Have a good night.
All right, Dr. Portillo, I'm going to say, are we officially done with information and discussion? Great. All right, moving on to 8.01 executive session. There is no executive session tonight. That takes us to 9.01 adjournment. Having concluded this meeting, is there a motion to adjourn?
I am so sorry.
Maria, you're breaking my heart.
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I just need a clarification. One of our exec members did not hear a confirmation for the approval of the consent agenda items 5.02 through 5.14.
My script had through 5.13.
Okay, so
do we need to go back and redo that?
Yeah, so it's 5.02 through 5.14.
Okay, we can just redo that. Can we just go back to that item?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just not on my script is the issue. All right,
Okay,
so
thank you.
we're going to go back to 5.01. And is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Consent agenda items 5.02 through 5.14 as
Second.
presented. All in favor? Great. Motion carries again with that 5.14 added. Having concluded this meeting, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all so much.